Okay, it's mad scientist time. It's time to make the pickup. So this is my bobbin. What I'm going to do first is, normally these bobbins have two holes here for the wires to come out, but because I'm going to do a tapped P90, I drilled a third hole here, which is where my entry wire will go. And so I'm going to start with just a safe edge file. I'm going to file the inside of the bobbin to make sure that all of the surfaces are flat. There's nowhere for wire to catch or cause problems. Now, when the screws go in, later on after the coil is done, they go in a bit slowly, which is annoying always. So what I do is I tap the holes. Basic thread tap. Wind it in. And that just makes the assembly process easier later on. And the first coil, or rather the start lead of the coil, is going to have a white wire. So I'll just trim off a little bit of white. Strip my ends. And very quickly I'll tin the end of the wire that will go into the pickup very, very lightly. Then we take our pickup wire, which is AWG 42. Nice thin wire, as thin as a human hair. Well, thinner than a human hair. Then it gets wrapped around the tinned end of the wire. Held in our little helper thing here. And very quickly soldered. Now some wires are solderable and some aren't, or as Americans say, solderable. I don't know why they say that. It always sounds like something nasty you do with goats. Anyway, this particular wire is solderable, but you do need to be sure, because I imagine there'd be nothing worse than winding a whole pickup assuming that your wire was solderable and then wondering why suddenly it didn't work. Now, our wire is in place against the bobbin, and all I do is sit this up here, take my flat edge file because it's convenient, and I put a little bit of tape in here. Now with our tape in place, we wind on a few bits of the coil. We go around a few times, just manually before attaching the bobbin to anything. Just to get ourselves nicely in position. Then our bobbin gets attached here. Now the basic winding position I use, I keep one hand here to guide the wire, and then one hand with a little bit of cloth here, which acts as a tensioner on the wire. So what happens is, when the motor is on, Tension is provided here, and I can guide the direction with my fingertips here. Once I've got it working, I simply gradually increase the speed. What I do for my initial winding is I wind about 80 turns for this width, and then I start going back slowly the other way to establish an even coil. I stop, I check a few times that it's working properly, and I'm not getting any going over the edge of the bobbin, and it's winding nice and tightly. I want the centre of my coil to be very tight. Now, I've got just around a bit over 7,000 on here, 7,165 turns, and I'm going to put in my coil tap. And the coil tap lead is red, so we take a red bit of wire, we strip the ends, and then essentially just wrap the wire around our tinned tap wire here. Now what happens, it's very straightforward. We simply solder quite carefully, because we don't want to break this wire. We solder the red, and here's our completed pickup coil. I wound it to around about 11,000, and here you can see I've installed the screws and I've wrapped tape around it. So this is our start, this is our tap, which comes in at a bit over 7,000, and then at 11,000 or thereabouts, this green wire is the end of our coil. Now it's ready for potting. Hey, it's potting time. So what I've got here is a pot of water sitting on a stove, a little portable stove. Don't do this on your kitchen stove or you'll burn your house down. I've got a little pot of wax which is sitting on a wooden base. I've got a thermometer here to check my temperature. This is a meat thermometer or something, or a kitchen thermometer of some type, I don't know. Anyway, we're at the right temperature, and here's my pickup. I've made a little thing here so I don't lower it in by the leads, because that's a very good way to pull the leads out and damage it. Into the wax it goes, and there it will sit for about 15-20 minutes. Bubbles will come up indicating that the wax is going into the coil. This pickup's actually going to be potted twice. First I'll pot it like this, and then I'll pot it a second time when it's all assembled and soldered up. It's called double potting, and it reduces microphonics. So let's get things happening. This is my homemade base plate. First thing I'm going to do is tin some solder onto here. So I heat it up, heat the base plate of course, and on goes the solder. Now my wire. This is actually 4-conductor wire. What I'm doing is I'm connecting the black lead to my ground, which is going to be my base plate. I solder it in position. From here, it's really simple. I connect green to green, red to red, white to white. And here's my pickup. I've got my coil in, I've got a couple of magnets there, a couple of screws holding things in, my keeper bar, my wire sticking out. On goes my cover. And we're all good. One dog ear P90.